All right, today we're going to dive into one of the most unique, most fascinating, and honestly, one of the most difficult birds out there, the hawk-headed parrot. And this isn't just another pretty bird. It's a genuine puzzle, one that has been driving bird lovers crazy for years. You know, words like unusual and bizarre really tell you something, don't they? Right from the get-go, it's clear we're dealing with a species that absolutely breaks the mold. So what makes it so bizarre? Okay, picture this. A parrot that can suddenly flare out this spectacular fan of feathers around its head. It looks both incredible and, frankly, a little menacing. This display is its signature move, and trust me, it's a sight you won't forget. So here's our game plan. First, we'll explore what makes this parrot a true one-of-a-kind. Then we'll get to know the bird itself before diving into its very complicated personality. From there, we'll tackle the huge challenge of breeding them. But don't worry, we'll also uncover the secrets to success and ask why anyone would take on such a demanding responsibility.
Okay, let's start with what makes this bird a true anomaly. And I'm not just being dramatic. Scientists have been scratching their heads for years trying to figure out where this bird even fits in the grand scheme of things.
So its fancy scientific name is Deroptyus accipitrinus, and here's what's so baffling. It is the only species in its entire genus. That's incredibly rare. It's a total loner, genetically speaking. But what's interesting is that while it stands alone, its behavior gives us a clue. It acts a lot like the Parrot conures.
And we have to talk more about that ruff. People say it looks like a Native American headdress, and you can totally see why. But when those feathers go up, it's not just a pretty picture. The bird actually sways back and forth and lets out this high-pitched whine. It's pure theater, pure drama, and it truly sets it apart from any other parrot on the planet.
All right, so beyond that wild display, what is this bird all about? Let's get to know this Amazonian native a little better.
Now, this is pretty cool. There are actually two subspecies, and nature drew a really clear line between them, the Amazon River. If you're north of the river, you find the type with a white forehead. But if you cross to the south, you'll find the subspecies with a dusky brown forehead. It's such a simple, elegant little detail.
So the basic stats, they paint a pretty standard picture. Medium-sized parrot, eats fruit, lives in the Amazon. But the most important characteristic here isn't its diet. It's that it's rare and highly sought after. That mix of strange beauty and complex personality makes it a real prize in the bird world.
And this is where our story really takes a turn. We're about to meet the two very different faces of the hawk-headed parrot.
People call this bird the Jekyll and Hyde of the parrot world. And they are not kidding. On one hand, you have this charming, super playful, incredibly smart companion. But then, a switch can flip, and that same bird becomes aggressive, loud, and can even attack its keepers without any warning. It's this wild contrast that makes it so fascinating, but also a serious handful.
So, that challenging personality? As you can imagine, it leads us straight to the biggest hurdle of them all.
And here's the core of the problem. That aggression isn't just aimed at people, it can be turned on their own mates. And just how extreme are we talking? Well, listen to this. Hawkheads have been known to kill mates, even in pairs that appear to be closely bonded. Think about that. Suddenly, this isn't just a difficult hobby, it's a life-or-death situation. The stakes are incredibly high. But let's say you manage to keep them from harming each other. The challenges are far from over. These birds are super nervous parents, and they often just abandon their eggs. And even if an egg hatches, trying to raise that chick from day one is next to impossible. The best chance for survival is this delicate little handoff, where you let a parent, or a foster parent, care for the chick for the first 2 weeks before a human takes over.
So that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? With all this aggression, abandonment, and fragile little chicks, how does anyone on Earth manage to successfully breed this species?
Well, the answer lies in some good old-fashioned human ingenuity. Through a lot of trial and error, breeders have come up with some really clever ways to get around these natural roadblocks. The first strategy is absolutely brilliant. You just don't rely on the hawkheads. It's a fantastic workaround. The breeder takes the eggs and puts them under a more reliable bird like a finch's Amazon. So this foster mom hatches the chick, raises it for the first couple of critical weeks, and then the human breeder steps in to hand-rear it. It's an amazing bit of cooperation, all orchestrated by a dedicated person. Okay, but what if you want the actual parents to raise their own kids? The second strategy, perfected by a breeder named Luciano Luzzatto, shows it can be done, but only if you control every single variable. And there is no magic bullet here. It was a meticulous combination of everything. A secluded, safe aviary, a very specific L-shaped nest box, an incredibly rich diet with things like boiled pigeon mix and fresh fruits, and, on top of all that, a fanatical commitment to hygiene. So it proves parent rearing is possible, but you have to create a near-perfect world for them.
So after all of this, the aggression, the risk, the meticulous, painstaking work, you have to ask, why bother? And that leads us to our final section.
You know, the simple answer is that the challenge is part of the reward. To successfully work with a species that's this complex and this beautiful, well, that's a massive achievement for anyone.
And that brings us to the bigger picture. Because this species is so rare and so challenging, the people who breed them feel a real sense of duty. It's not just about personal success. It's about cooperation. It's about exchanging birds to create new, unrelated pairs to keep the gene pool healthy. It's really about securing the future of this species in our care. And ultimately, that's what this all comes down to, right? When we find a creature this unique, this challenging, and this magnificent, it really forces us to ask what our role is. Are we just keepers? Or are we stewards, responsible for protecting the natural world's most enigmatic creations?
Thanks so much for watching. By the way, I also publish a bird magazine dedicated to conservation, birding, and aviculture, everything about birds. In the magazine, you'll find in-depth articles, practical tips, and breeder experiences that go beyond what we share here on YouTube. A free standard version is available to download from my website. And if you'd like even more, the premiere version includes additional articles, free ebooks, full-page advertising in the standard edition, and many other great benefits. You'll find the links in the description below. And as always, you're welcome to reach out anytime, either in the comments or by email. See you in the next video.